everybody.
Hey, everybody. We're back.
We are.
For our 2025 U.S. Predictions Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, this one is emphasizing our diplomatic relations with a number of other countries. Now, we couldn't pick everybody, but we had to pick some of the major players. There are some notable omissions. North Korea, for example, would be one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope you understand that going forward. And but we know there's some hot button things, and there's been some things recently talked about, with the incoming administration and some other countries that they have interests in of varying sorts. And so we're going to tackle that. We're going to see what's going on there. We're going to only do the 3 cards out of the 4 we did in the previous reading for each of these categories.
Right, the major issue, factors, neg or pos, or where things stand by the end of the year.
Right. And we'll just take a look at what might be going on here in our relations with some of these foreign powers, foreign countries.
So as has been said, strap in, we're in for a bumpy ride.
Woohoo! And guess what? This one is more conglomerate of countries, but we do think it's going to be a huge issue in 2025 going forward. And that's the U.S. relations with NATO. Okay.
Right.
Much has been talked about, and we'll just see where things are going there. We're focusing on that first. I'm going to shuffle them 3 times and then give them to Mr. O. I've mixed these up really well from the last reading. I think I did.
So, in fact, if you weren't aware, there is a part 1, and you can probably still find that on our YouTube channel. We're leaving it there in play.
And also, as Mr. O shuffles, I'll remind everybody that these will be time-stamped. So you could look at the country combinations here that are of interest to you. And when all is said and done, and we're done with this part of our U.S. predictions, however long it takes, might be part 3 coming for this. We will do a world prediction as well. And, it's going to be very general for the world. But we will also look at some countries in the world and their diplomatic relations with one another. All right. Card 1 is what, Mr. O?
The U.S. and NATO, diplomatic relations.
Oh, goodness.
So card 1 is major issues, challenges, or opportunities.
It's the devil upright.
Well, and that adds, obviously, an element of surprise.
An element of restraint or constraint.
Mm-hmm.
It seems as though there may be, and you know what? That might be what's going on with our relations with them. That each side is putting up is trying to, how do I want to say this? I want to say entrap the other, but restrain the other.
Well, it could call for, the ideas that are expressed sometimes in governments where there's more of a clampdown on democracies or on freedoms. So this could be saying that within that context of these relations, somebody wants to really sort of limit information or limit something. Somebody maybe feels that there are real proscribed and restricted roles to play. And maybe that's the major issue or challenge, is that, at least in the current time frame, there's just really no room for variation in the roles or activities, duties, etc., perhaps.
I'm just going to call it like I see it here, unfortunately.
Uh-oh.
Somebody wants to put NATO under their thumb. And we're, on a string, okay, that they can pull. And they think they have the capability of doing it. That's what it looks like to me. When you look at this card, you kind of see that. And so I can't help but think that the incoming administration is going to be playing some real serious hardball, for whatever, however you feel about it with NATO.
I want it to be more just about the government, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, I can't mince words about this one. Just seeing this come up as the first card, I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
So card 2 is the factors.
I just want to add one more thing. So it could also mean that the U.S. is going to try to restrain NATO, whether it's involved with the Ukraine incident or other things, maybe fortifying their defenses or getting more membership, that kind of thing. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
Card 2 are the positive or negative factors at play.
Well,
it's the reversed 5 of Wands.
Some people don't want to play. I see that right away here. I'm going to let you go ahead.
Well, the positive or negative factors is that, in fact, there's a lot of competition or there's a lot of strident behaviors maybe within this diplomatic relationship. It could be more on one side than the other. So in the idea that we talked about with the first one, it could be that there are a lot of people who are now influxed into the new administration who want to really have their way in the NATO process.
So the factors at play that is worrisome to me is I'm not sure this is necessarily our government's aim, but is somebody wanting to break up NATO? When you see this 5 reversed, you wonder if it's all going to fall apart. I do feel that maybe some people might feel they walk away or that they don't have any, how do I want to say this? They don't have any agency in the arguments that are going to be going on here or in the diplomatic pressures that are going to be exerted.
Somebody expecting less diplomacy in the regular routine maneuvers, like just saying, like, we're not going to treat them, in a more diplomatic way. We're going to make demands of them.
It's very iffy to me. Combined with the devil, I'm not liking it. Otherwise, I might even throw out the option that, okay, maybe they'll set their differences aside and, struggle to build something that they can all agree upon. But I'm not seeing that here with these 2 cards so far. I want to see what the end of 2025 will bring.
Well, the devil is a strong, commanding, authoritarian figure, and the 5 of Wands reverse talks about that kind of behavior in general, even bullyism.
Yeah, pushing your agenda over others and not listening.
So our final card then is, where will things stand by the end of the year?
Wow. It's the 4 of Swords upright.
The 4 of Swords upright. It's time to take
Duck and
a rest.
cover.
Duck and cover, retreat in some way.
Somebody's retreating, and people are licking their wounds. Hey, it could be the U.S. for all we know if NATO stands tall. It could be any number of things. It could mean maybe that NATO pulls it together and it restrains other people or pulls them back. But I feel here there's seriously a pullback going on, and it could be tied directly into that people are just saying, we can't work with this, and walking away, licking their wounds.
The worst possible scenario is, that, of course, the idea that there's somehow a cessation of the diplomacy, that it's just sort of like put on ice
or that NATO's gone.
Right. But see, a lot of times the 4 of Swords involves the concept of something healing or trying to repair itself. We can only hope.
We can only hope. Well, you know what? I was the one who wanted to do this reading. And ouch. Anyway. All right.
So let's move on then. And now we're going to think about the diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Canada.
And Canada.
Our neighbor to the north.
My goodness. The Trump administration's not even in power yet. And yet they're taking credit for removing their prime minister, which I don't know about that. There's been a lot of, how should I say, influence peddling going on in Canada to try to coerce them what a wonderful 51st state they would be. Things like that. So, and also tariffs. That's a big thing. That was the big thing at first. Not that we were going to buy or merge Canada with the United States. We were going to give them high tariffs. And so let's take a look at what our relations with Canada is going to look like. might turn out much better than we think because, they're our neighbors.
Well, us here in Detroit, they're literally our neighbors.
Yeah.
They're literally just,
A stone's
whatever it takes to get
throw.
over the river, a 5 or 10 minute drive.
Our
maybe.
bridge, our tunnel. That's right. Our bridge, our tunnel, etc. Thank you for reminding me.
Card the first.
Card
So
the
what is
first.
the major issue, challenge, or opportunity in these relations? And it's the reversed 5 of Pentacles.
It's really funny seeing this 5 of Pentacles pop up right now, and only because Canada is one of the countries that is helping us put out the LA fires right now. And this is a card of recovery of sorts. And so, maybe that and maybe some common sense diplomacy between the U.S. and Canada, agreements could be reached. Maybe our relationship with Canada can recover.
Since I feel bid to look at this more from the viewpoint of the U.S., I think Banshee's exactly right here. I think that what this says is that the major issue is we really need to realize they're our sweet spot. They're our safe harbor. They're the ones that we should most easily turn to when we are feeling isolated or having some sort of sense of problems.
So the challenge, the major issue, the challenge opportunity, maybe actually the best way I should have couched this is we should be working to recover our relations with Canada and not make them worse. We need them. And so I think here too, Canada's feeling kind of, how should I say this? Not isolated, but obviously feeling pretty bad about the way that we're either ignoring
We're
them
treating them like
as
the
a sovereign nation.
the red-haired stepchild.
And so to really look at this as that point of major issue challenge or opportunity, I guess I should have said it's a challenge to try to get these relations normalized once more, but there could be opportunity here in doing so, right?
So, I guess so, right. I mean, obviously, new coalitions could bring new energies, new resources of some sort to the matter. I mean, maybe it's about remaking everything. Card 2, factors at play, positive or negative. And it's the reversed 9 of Pentacles.
You know what? This is saying to me that the positive and the negative of all of this is this whole discussion may have forever changed our relationships in some ways with Canada. The fact that we want to charge them these high tariffs, the fact that we're going to treat them, a little bit differently than we have in the past, not as really close neighbors that they are. But things may not, on the positive side, things may not deteriorate to a really bad point, right?
Well, it's almost like, we're not comfortable anymore. This almost feels more like it's from the point of view of Canadians that they no longer feel as comfortable with our country. And this is more at those administrative, actual levels.
Well, as we're doing diplomatic relations here, it's really a combo of both countries.
Sure.
So that's why I'm doing, a
Mix
little
and
bit of
match.
emphasis. Yeah, and
Of
I
course.
feel here, even with us, that applies because things won't be quite the same again. Some people in this country, of course, are following the party line and saying, well, why not? Why not expand our territories? I say why. So, there's going to be that, right? And things may never be the same.
All right, card 3 then, where things will stand by the end of the year.
Well, I think that's a good news, bad news situation as well with the 8 of Cups reversed.
8 of Cups reversed.
I have a feeling that maybe some tariffs will happen, but it won't be as bad, and of course they will answer back. So we're both going to suffer, and we're both going to stay pretty much where we are. There's maybe things that we need to tidy up. Maybe we can recover some ground and go along to get along. So in other words, I think by year's end, we're not going to acquire Canada. I think that's pretty clear.
That's nice. It's an impasse of sorts. It just feels like uh, emotion that is maybe, regressed in some respects, and maybe it's, the year after this one will be the year for the midterms. That's really going to be a decider from our point of view, but maybe that's what Canadians themselves may be wanting to wait for, is put things on hold and realize we can't quite move forward with this.
Well, that's what I see here.
I agree.
All right.
So that was the U.S. and Canada. We're now going to do the U.S. and Mexico.
Because they're neighbors too, and they're dealing with a lot of stuff from us, from changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to invading Mexico to tariffing Mexico to you name it.
Our incoming administration has also been doing some shock and awe kind of, speeches, wordings.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Mexico's responding and not happy. And so let's see where things end up here. Okay. And I didn't even mention, of course, the border issues. So, there is
right. They didn't really show up in a physical way, but you can see the sort of sense of emotional, borders that happen between us and the Canadians, perhaps.
But as a reminder, Mexico has also sent us a lot of firefighters to help fight the fires in California.
Okay, first card, the major issue or challenge or opportunity.
Well, it's a Hierophant. Oh.
I like that. It's like it can only get better.
Well, I want to hope so. Why don't you start us off then?
Well, I think the major issue or challenge is really coming to a place together that honors tradition, that honors order, and that honors people arising together, because that's the image in the card. And so I think that's our issue and challenge and opportunity, because we could actually have great opportunities by working in tandem with the Mexican people and the Mexican government. We're all human here. Come on, folks.
So since this is a double-edged question, the major issues which are challenges and opportunities, it's a little of both, of course. Having to deal with dogmatism from wherever it's coming from, a dogmatic leader who has their own ideas of how what the order of the universe should be, versus the traditions and the cultures and the status quo as it is right now. Mexico being a sovereign nation. And U.S. wanting to protect their borders. So I think here that maybe people will find a way, forward to make the status quo, to allow the status quo, the structures of these governments to remain in effect. That's the major issue here, without disrupting people's sovereignty.
Very nice.
So I think I covered all three of those there.
Factors at play, positive or negative.
Wow.
Okay, it's our friend the reversed Seven of Cups.
Yes. It's really... go ahead.
This is one of those cards where you could kind of see it either way. Some of those positive factors are the fact that maybe we can decide on something that we both agree on or that we think should be the principal focus. But maybe that's the negative too, is that there's enough other things that, number one, we need to find time for, or that maybe that one thing just really isn't really the most important thing, depending on who's calling those shots.
Mm-hmm. And it's exactly right. So the factors, positive or negative, depend upon the choices that somebody finally decides and makes, and for good or bad. What their intentions are. Is it good for all, or is it just good for one, or is it just good for a wealthy class and not a poor class? I mean, it's going to depend a lot on the decisions and choices that our leaders of both of these countries make together, or if they can even work together on making the right choice.
Very nice.
Yeah, and so ultimately,
where will it stand?
Where will it stand?
Ultimately, by the end of 2025,
I
where will
like
things go?
it. I like it. It's the Three of Swords reversed.
Well,
so
I'll let you
it's
go
going
first
to be
this
a
time.
painful process, I
Absolutely.
think. Working with Mexico, I don't think we're necessarily going to get what we want, but they're not either. And so it's going to be a painful process working towards a point of some recovery. But I think by 2025, some mending will occur. Something will happen that maybe will ease tensions, pressures ease up a bit. That's what I've seen.
Well, maybe that's the meaning of democracy, especially between sovereign nations, is that not everybody gets what they want, and that there still is something that needs to be worked on. And this is a good result, because this is saying maybe the major problems will be resolved or nearly resolved, and we will actually be seeing our countries heal in our diplomatic relationship.
And there's one thing I regret not doing in our main reading for the U.S., and I don't think we can do it here, so we'll have to reconsider that, is the U.S. Economy, immigration. We should have done immigration.
Well, maybe we can do a coda at the end of things, but we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. So
that was
Mexico.
U.S. and Mexico diplomatic relations. We're now going to move on to something that might almost seem like, why that? But only because...
I know, why? Where did
the
this
U.S.
come
and Greenland,
from?
only because all of a sudden...
We want it.
we want it, or someone does.
Somebody does. I thought I wanted to move there until I hear somebody wants it. So maybe I don't. But poor Greenland. No, I'm just kidding. Poor Greenland. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're already under the protectorate of Denmark, and Denmark is not happy either. So I guess in a sense we could be looking at the diplomatic relations between those two combined and the U.S. here. That would make sense to me. But it's kind of crazy that we are exploring this. We have a big military base there, and we have interests there, but, so do other nations like Russia. And that doesn't mean that we should buy them or be able to. All right. But that's just my soapbox. So one more tap shuffle, and let's cut.
All right, so U.S. and Greenland, what is the major issue, challenge, or opportunity?
Thank you. Well, it's the Knight of Pentacles reversed.
Wow.
Okay. Does that apply to the U.S. or does that apply to Greenland? I get the feeling the major challenge for the U.S. is, what? Maybe money just can't buy this property you want. Maybe this is going to stall. This whole concept of any kind of major, takeover of Greenland is really not going to happen here. And as a matter of fact, I hazard and I worry if some economic, pull could take place here one way or the other. That somebody might, pull out some of their... I don't know how to say this. Gosh, I'm so bad with the common economic stuff sometimes. They may stop importing things to us or exports, whatever the case may be, and causing some financial hurt.
It's very true that the reverse Knight of Pentacles can add a great air of stagnation or slow motion to things. It almost seems like even motivation drops off. And so is the major issue really that only very few people seem to be motivated to see this as an issue, even that it's sort of like really not an issue we should be moving towards.
Well, I like that. It could very well be that some of these readings that are showing we're not going to be able to go that far with Canada, Mexico, or Greenland, is because people in Congress, the courts, and all that, they're not going to be all that into this kind of idea.
They're not realistic.
Or even the military, for that matter. I mean, even if you replace some of the generals and stuff, how many of our troops are going to want to be going over there to take over a country for us? I question this.
So in terms of a challenge, maybe slowing everything down until finally we move ahead with what we should be could be a better way of dealing with all this. Like, just get away from it and move on to where the challenges really should be.
So the major issue to me was it just all talk and it's just going to stall out? Because it doesn't seem like this is going to be able to get off the ground. Getting this off the ground is the major issue as well as the challenge. Is there an opportunity there? I'm beginning to think there isn't as big an opportunity maybe as some would like us to believe.
Alrighty then, so our second card is factors at play, positive or negative. Well, I'm not sure how to go with that.
I do. I think
Right.
I'll start, and maybe I'm off, but I think the positive is here that the factors at play is that we want to maintain good relations with Denmark and Greenland, because we certainly wouldn't want them to kick us off their island, do we? We wouldn't want our base to go away from there, would we? And so I think here we really want to kind of embrace each other ultimately one way or another. We really don't want to put some kind of major rift between us. It's in our best interests not to.
I like this as a metaphor. I thought about it, and I see it exactly more or less as it should be. When you think of the happy family, you're not thinking of somebody in the White House or somebody watching their troops marching in formation. You're thinking of the common people. And the common people want peace and more or less an unconditional love and appreciation for what each other have or contribute to the whole. And so this is not really about what the leaders or the important people think needs to happen. It's really about maintaining the status quo, because at the end of the day, the Ten of Cups upright is the status quo.
And I really do feel, for the most part, Greenland does not want us to buy them. For the most part, they're
sure.
people. They kind of stand united in that, and happily so. And the other thing about this is that maybe this is also saying, as far as our diplomatic, the positives is that this might get Greenland and the U.S. to come up with some other compromise. For example, maybe they'll let the U.S. expand their base on the island or something like that. Maybe. Okay.
And then finally, card 3, where are things standing at the end of 2025?
So, how much better could it get after a 10 of Cups?
Oh, the ace? No,
the 3 of Cups. Which is everybody in harmony, working together.
Well, I hope that doesn't mean Greenland marries the U.S.
Well, does Greenland come on board? I mean, some people could see this, except for that stall here in the beginning. Maybe they find a way to partner up. I can't imagine this. I really can't. But there's a happy ending here.
There's a happy ending.
So for who? Is it the U.S.? I think.
Celebrate a new relationship that isn't exactly what anybody wanted, but something different, a relationship of a new sense of cooperation or agreement of some sort.
A partnership, yeah.
A partnership.
Well, hey, this one's up for grabs. I don't think Greenland is up for grabs, but it looks like this reading is up for grabs.
Yeah. Let us know
Okay.
what you think, too.
Wow.
So that was U.S. and Greenland. Now we're going to go back over to the other side of the pond and look at the U.S. and Central and South America. Once again, there's just always stuff going on that kind of ripples back and forth between them. So
go on.
So we want to see, what our cards will say.
And we definitely want to put an emphasis on Panama because of the Panama Canal. We want to see what's there. And also on things like Maduro in Venezuela, because I think Trump has this, issue with Venezuela. And I want to just see what pops up here. And Maduro has talked seriously about finding a way to extricate Puerto Rico from the United States. Seen articles about this recently. So
how fascinating is that?
I'm curious to see what the cards will say. And especially about Panama. I don't know why, this is an issue, but it is. All right, shuffle. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I think some interesting readings so far. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm kind of glad we decided to do it this way, even if it's taking a little longer. Okay, let's see what we got. Well, we got the Page of Swords for the major issues, challenges, or opportunities. Communication. Maybe there's going to be a lot more dialogue and communication with Central America and some of the South American countries that hasn't been done in the past. It may be too here that, what did I want to say? Why don't you go ahead? Well, this is definitely about diplomacy. This card is about diplomatic.
That's what I wanted to say. Thank
go
you.
Ahead. Go
ahead. But, that's the page, though. The page is setting a tone. The page often comes in and says, we're going to focus this way, or I'm bringing you news about this or something. And that's what the news is that despite all the saber rattling that's been going on for a while now, maybe there is a new air coming in that will establish the idea of better relations, tactfulness, gracefulness, seeking ideas that maybe it's a brainstorming thing. And, a lot of that really would be beneficial because there are so many problems with some of those situations down there as they affect us or how we feel they affect us. So why not?
This could indicate to me that cooler heads might prevail and, work together with some innovative ideas.
Card 2, factors at play, positive or negative.
It's the moon reversed. Wow. Well, I think some of the factors at play, maybe some things get revealed. Some things are brought out to the light of day, whether it's from the U.S. side or whether it's on South America or Central America's side, that may have an influence here, for better or worse. I think here, and you know what? Isn't that the case sometimes? Somebody brings up dirt on one side, for example, of an argument, and then the other finds dirt on the other side, and somehow they all got to balance it out and come up with, a middle ground here.
Well, I'm getting a little funny vibe, and it is the moon reversed. And, for many decades, 5, 6 more possibly, we knew that some of our intelligence agencies like the CIA were covertly involved in things going on in Central and South America.
Venezuela,
in Venezuela. And some of these things have happened even much more recently. And so it is possible that these issues are going to come up, resurface. People know about them, but not a lot of people. Maybe it's about, some of this having to come out and be dealt with.
That's a really good point here. There may be diplomacy, there may be more emphasis being put on this area of the world, and that's going to bring out a lot of revelations.
The dirty laundry.
Well, I can't argue with that.
We're going to be washing them on the shoreline at the light of the moon.
Okay, so where things stand by the end of 2025?
Oh, it's the 5 of Cups.
Well, who's unhappy, huh? Is it the U.S.? Is it the Is it Central South America? Somebody's looking at losses here. Some serious losses and disappointment. And they're not realizing, though, there's so much that could be built upon. You know, you have those remaining cups standing. There's so much you can build upon if you don't focus on what you don't have, okay? How about focusing on what you have and making something better of it?
In some ways, this 5, they usually have an energy attracted to them, seems a little bit more like a pause or cessation. But it could also be said to be like maybe a slow beginning of a redetermination to maybe consider where you need to go after a loss. And so I feel like that's where it ends up, is that maybe whoever doesn't really feel like they achieved what they wanted, they may have to subside for a while, but they will not quite forget where they need to reapply themselves.
Interesting. Well,
So that was the U.S. and Central South America.
Now we get to something really huge. The U.S. and Russia.
Woo! It's hot.
Oh, it's your shuffle first, I think. Yeah.
Let me at 'em. And so we are technically about halfway through this show.
We'll see if we get through them all. We may have to
bail.
Have a part 3. And maybe that's where we could put in the U.S. and immigration in the beginning of it, maybe. If it's a smaller video. I'm hedging here. I do feel bad we did not tackle immigration in the U.S. because of all the talk of deportations and whatnot.
Well, in a way, you know, the immigration issues transcend particular relations with
That's true.
a number of countries. It's literally its own issue that can be applied to the world at large. Obviously, there are some nuances, but it's really the U.S. and immigration is its whole topic in a way.
Well, it's like the U.S. and economy. It's just one of the things.
And that's what you said.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
let's see what we got here.
Oh, I gotta cut them. Sorry, let me do here. Got it. All right. Maybe I'll try to cut it by you next time.
Okay, so U.S. and Russia, major issue, challenge, or opportunity.
What's this? Why am I not surprised?
Mother Russia.
Mother Russia. Well,
it's the Queen of Pentacles.
I think they're both going to be benefiting each other, the U.S. and Russia this year. The diplomatic policy will be to not, I don't want to say cave to Russia. Everybody's like, oh, we're just a pawn of Russia. Well, maybe, but I have a feeling here we're going to be mutually working more with Russia than against Russia. And that's what I feel here, that there's going to be more of a nurturing relationship going on.
That's very interesting. I kind of like that idea because there are other powers in the world who maybe don't have quite all of it together with each other either. And so I think this is a strong sign that maybe America and Russia, the USA and Russia, are going to find ways to mutually help each other.
I'm looking at this not so helpfully because it's major issues, challenges, and opportunities. And I feel here the challenge is, what are the motives behind this, right? What are the motives suddenly where Russia is decimating Ukraine and wanting to take that back? What are our motivations with trying to get better relations? Is it economic? Is it personal economic goals and gains? I'm concerned about this. Sure, the Queen is here in her growthful element, but are all the motivations really true, following that?
I see what you're saying. I know, too, that our incoming president has said things to the effect that he's going to stop the war on the first day. And so, of course, that begs the question, does he know something or does he have something that can do that? What's going on with that?
All right, so card 2.
Factors at play, positive or negative.
We're going to be working with them.
Yeah.
For better or worse. Okay, just because the card is positive here doesn't necessarily mean to me it's a positive for us. But we are going to be working with them. That's what I see. And you can take that however you feel about it.
A part of the attraction of Russia to the conservative parts of the country is the fact that they remain Caucasian mostly, Christian mostly. And so this was very appealing in the way
autocratic mostly.
Autocratic, but this was very appealing in the way diplomacy and or interactions with Russia have been sold to that group of people. So working together does seem to be in the cards.
And there's probably, the billionaire class in Russia, very appealing to our billionaire class here. All right, so what's next?
Where will things stand by the end of 2025?
Wow. They're all upright.
Ooh, that's judgment, right?
You bet it is.
It's a big reevaluation by the end of the year. It's maybe a big sense of people having a epiphany, a realization, especially something that's deep mentally or spiritually.
This is going to be like a total makeover, with the U.S., with their relations with Russia. Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Could it be that we will regret our decision, our judgment eventually? I don't know. This looks somewhat positive. We seem to be letting go of something and, shedding one skin and putting on another. So
I like the way you say that.
I don't know what else to say about this reading. I think some people will find the positives in this, and some people will look at this like I am, a little bit warily as to why this looks so positive. Because it's going to be what some people want, but it may not be what the world needs or what everybody wants.
We are not always in accordance.
Well,
so that was the U.S. and Russia diplomatic relations. And next will be the U.S. and Israel.
Oh boy. Am I shuffling first? I think you are.
Maybe.
I think you are. Actually, it is me. I'm sorry. What is it again? Oh, Israel. Well, the U.S. and Israel is an interesting can of worms because while we say we are staunch supporters of Israel, there are many that are entering this administration that don't necessarily feel kindly to Jewish people. So I'm really just totally at a loss as to what I feel about this. I feel that there's definitely strong ties there. I just don't know where things are going to go.
There's a sense of cognitive dissonance because there are so many different things happening in America that affect how people are relating to that issue.
Gaza, etc.
And
we'll get to the Middle East next, with an emphasis on Gaza and an emphasis on Iran. I'm keeping Syria. Is it Syria? No, Syria out for now, but it is a concern as well. These days. So I can't cover everybody. It might come up in our reading anyway. So this is about U.S.-Israeli relations.
What is the major issue, challenge, or opportunity, or all three?
Is justice reversed?
And
I'm going to let you go. I know you can't wait.
Well,
yes.
It's hard to talk sometimes about certain things, but the cards either give us an insight. We never feel the cards are a total 100% reality. Things can always change.
Think about it with U.S. and Israel relations.
There's something not fair going on.
There's a power imbalance here.
There's a power imbalance.
And I feel here also that there is I don't know, maybe a legal imbalance too. But no, I think maybe what this is saying is that we're willing to look the other way at some of the negative things that Israel is doing, and that will be part of our diplomatic relations because we have our own agendas, that may support. But I don't know that our relationship with Israel this year is going to be mutually beneficial. It might benefit us more than them, or them more than us.
In general, the Justice card reverse speaks to the idea of injustice. And so we could talk about this saying if either country feels that their programs or their situations cause injustice to somebody else, they're both okay with that. And of course, obviously, this is more one direction than the other.
So the major issue is these imbalances, and also our acceptance of whatever Israel wants to do, because they seem to be doing whatever they want to do to the Gazans and, when they, to Iran, etc. So, and also, I wonder about military spending and stuff. So major issue might be that. The challenge is, will Israel still be able to expect the same level of financial support, or will there be some deficits? And the opportunity if there is an opportunity in this at all, it would be to kind of right the wrongs here, right the wrongs. But I'm not
when
sure
justice is reversed, the opportunity ends up being, how do we put that the other way around? So card 2 then is the factors at play, positive or negative.
It's the King of Cups reversed.
And he's not a very nice person.
Well, how shall I say this? The King of Cups is about emotions. The King of Cups reversed may not have any, may not be empathetic, I want to say, empathy. And so maybe they're very cold in their approach to the U.S. might be not showing enough sympathy or support for Israel in this year ahead. That could be one of the negatives here. I can't see a positive.
Right. I think it does indicate that something is going to change in the relationship, and that there may be more demands one way or the other. I'm not putting off the idea that Israel may try to be more of a dispassionate person towards the U.S.
And between Trump and Netanyahu and their policies, I could label each of those a King of Cups. So there you go. You have two people that are lacking a little bit of empathy right now for the other, and they're dealing with each other.
Card 3, where will things ultimately end by the year 2025?
It's another king reversed. It's the King of Wands. The strong man wins. The strong side wins. The one who can push their agenda and their power over the other will win. And I just feel that way about it. It looks like it's a power struggle this year between leaders.
A lot of times the King of Wands reverse can sort of give this idea about somebody who they're just going to push their way there. They're not going to rely on diplomacy or charisma or building networks. They're going to just sort of bulldoze.
And couldn't this mean that someone might cave? Maybe somebody will cave and acquiesce to the other, right?
That could mean that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So very interesting. Very interesting read.
All right.
Now we're on the U.S. and the Middle East. That's a can of big worms.
This one is a big one too.
Shuffling first, I think. And we have a couple of bigger powerhouses coming up. Besides the Middle East, which is big. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. U.S. Middle East, card 1, major challenge, issue, or opportunity.
It's the Queen of Swords reversed.
Ooh. The first thing I think of is, of course, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. And, of course, that could be considered bad taste in the situation here. The Queen of Swords reversed. The major issue or challenge is maybe finding a way to make a decision that really doesn't destroy things, or people won't really attack you for that. Finding a consensus is going to be very hard, I think.
Well, wow.
That's not all I'm going to say about it. I just said I'd stop there, though.
No, I get it. The major issue to me is thinking totally, how do I want to say this? Thinking with cloudy vision, number one, not basing your stuff on facts and logical approach to something, maybe being more biased rather than objective. So in other words, if you're prejudiced against countries in the Middle East, that's going to come out here. And vice versa, and vice versa. There's a lot of animosity right now and anger between countries in the Middle East. Gaza, for one, for the U.S. supporting what Israel's doing and keep funding, the military machine, and Iran, Iran too. So I think here that's part of it, but also a big part of this is I think the U.S. taking this is my feeling with this Queen of Swords here, a very strong-armed approach and a very heartless one towards the countries in the Middle East. I know, for example, that Trump said, quote unquote, that all hell would break loose if the hostages in Gaza were not returned by his inauguration day. Well, we'll see if he holds true to that, or if miraculously, I know they've been working and getting closer to a hostage deal, that something happens there. But I feel this is coming from us.
Well, I'm going to go back towards the middle just a little bit here before we move on. But I feel that as a challenge goes, we look at the reverse queen, and this queen sort of feels like it doesn't matter what others think. I have to make this decision that I'm making. And that's both sides here. Mm-hmm. Countries in the Middle East as well as America. Each of them feel they are empowered to make the decision that they think is right for them. And there's no way, like I said earlier, that we are finding a consensus. Yeah. So that's also the challenge as well as the issue. Is there an opportunity there?
Well, no. Let's see if there's a positive here, though. And there's not. We're getting a lot of court cards suddenly as we've gotten into some of these readings. And so far, they haven't repeated, I don't think.
Okay.
And so here's another king. We have the King of Pentacles in this position reversed.
So, factors at play, positive or negative?
Well, isn't it always about money, right? And greed and power over? Manipulative behavior with money and resources. And so it could be on both sides that threats are being made. Oil might be withheld. Prices might go up because of warfare, whatever the case may be. Certain decisions that are made on the negative could impact either us or the Middle East pretty adversely. And I would also add to this that as a positive in this, I'm not sure I see a positive. Maybe you can help.
Well, I think that this is another one of those both side kind of things here. And when I see the king reversed there, I feel like not only does it feel like things aren't being handled properly, but maybe the question really is there's so much overlapping within those structures or layers of those governments and then those multiple countries over there, Arabia, Sudan, all of that stuff. Nobody really knows who's really in charge.
I was going to say that with the Queen.
Okay.
Good
well,
point.
I guess they're both kind of alike in that.
Yeah.
And so the problem really is that, there's in Iran and maybe some other countries there's more of a religious authority that has a bottom line. I think that's mostly Iran. So there's just different situations where we don't know really who's in charge. And you could say that about us too.
Well, you can say that in Gaza too, because so many leaders were taken out by Israel.
Yeah.
Who's really in charge to make all these decisions that will stick? And Syria. Let's look at what's happening in Syria right now. So, yeah.
Well, finally then, where will things stand by the end of 2025?
Wow. It's the Lovers reversed. All these reversals lately. Seriously.
I feel like somebody's cutting off their nose to spite their face. Like somebody may say, we're going to let these things happen. We're going to let these decisions be made, even though we kind of know that they're not the right ones. And of course, this could be saying, let everything happen to Gaza that's happening, but also to Syria and other countries that seem to be having some dominoes shifting around, falling around.
Ethics, human rights, all these different things seem to be flying out the window with a lot of the decisions being made. These are unethical. These are not in the interests of the common good. Somebody's benefiting here, right? But it's not good for the common good of the, people in the U.S. or the people in the Middle East.
Oy.
Oy.
All right. And now we are on the U.S. and China.
Big one.
You shuffle, right?
I think I am. The U.S. and China. Taiwan is really, on the edge here of China attacking them. And China's influence with Russia, China and the tariff war, trade war that might ensue. There's just so many issues here right now. China with, what do I want to say? Spy balloons and different things that hovered over our country. So, there's some issues going on. And was it a Russian or Chinese boat that ended up cutting that cable into Europe, in the waters in Europe? I forget.
I believe it might have been Korean. I'm not sure. Or it had a connection there too.
Well,
I don't remember.
There may have been two incidents now too, so I'm not sure. But at any rate, let's see what's going on.
All right.
Go. All right, China and the U.S.
Card 1, the major issue, challenge, or opportunities. Oh,
You saw it, didn't you?
I did.
It's the Ten of Swords.
It's the Ten of Swords.
Right. Here I'm talking about all the reverse cards, and boy, do I wish this one was, but it's not. Somebody's going to stab the other in the back, or they're going to feel that way.
It's really existential, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the major issue. Somebody's going to feel really stabbed in the back by the other, and the challenge is how to find the light in this situation. Right there, that's the challenge. How to get yourself up and start working on resolving this crisis.
And if you can do that, then there are opportunities.
Right.
But that depends on whether or not we can weather this challenge here.
This is really not a happy card to see.
That was pretty succinct.
And in a way, I'm not surprised. So,
Card 2, factors at play, positive or negative.
Oh boy, it's the Nine of Wands reversed.
Well, that almost feels like somebody's not prepared, and maybe that's both of us in a way. We're not really prepared for the idea of what a big, serious clash between our cultures and our countries could bring.
I'm going to throw this out there. Could somebody give up on their idea of doing, say, the heavy tariffs on China? Or could somebody give up something else? Are they going to give up Taiwan to China? Are they going to, or does this mean, and I'm a little concerned about this, does this mean that one of the countries is going to do something sudden, like this Ten of Swords, sudden, that is going to cause a diplomatic crisis that the other side was not prepared for?
Card 3.
And that's positive.
Very succinct
There's
too,
nothing,
right?
I don't feel there's anything really positive here. No. Well,
Where things
card
stand
3.
at the end.
Well, I could look at this a couple of ways considering the other cards. It's justice. So does some factor balance things out? Does something even the score, even the scales? And when I say that, do other countries intervene? I just can't help but wonder there might be some outside, ways of intervention going on here. Does somebody intervene in this? I'm going to stop there, but I have another idea. Go ahead.
Well, justice could be that. I mean, this card really talks about things in a more broader, universal sense. And we're talking about the U.S. and China, which are conceivably the only two super big powers left in the world. Russia is a close tie for either of those. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, what's going on now. And it's kind of interesting that, of course, justice almost always has a sword in hand.
Yes.
So
yeah, I know.
this really does talk about, a conflict of nations. Will things resolve in a fair way? Does somebody have to stand down and let things go where they go, accept what happens?
And I have a funny observation here. These superpowers we've always kind of locked horns with, right? But as we saw with Russia, everything looked pretty dang positive for our relationships with Russia.
Yeah.
And considering what everybody has said about Trump and Putin being buds, that maybe this is true. We've not, it's not the same for China, is it?
No.
I know. So it's really kind of striking to me. And I would add this, that I feel here that maybe this is saying by year's end that we're going to want justice for whatever happened here. So, or either us or China is going to want retribution and to even the score or even the scales. All right.
The U.S. and Great Britain.
Yes, well, certain, shall I say, billionaires have been kind of meddling with Great Britain politics. And, of course, the U.S. is also talking about putting some tariffs and changing the relationship a little bit with Great Britain. And so, who've always been our friends and, we cared about each other. Well, obviously not the Revolutionary War, but So, what is happening here? I'm curious. And I don't know if I was supposed to shuffle first, but I just did. And I think it was supposed to be you. I'm sorry, but go ahead. We'll just go. Move on. Moving on. I'm getting near the bottom
Well, it's
here.
never really a big issue for me. They're getting shuffled by both of us. That's enough.
It is the way.
And don't forget, we will still be doing another set of predictions that are more about the rest of the world and their situations, not so much about what's their interaction is with us.
It's really
We've
going to be
done
a
that.
very general thing, like we did for the U.S. in the beginning. And then we will be looking at a different video with diplomacy with certain other countries and their interactions with each other.
Alrighty. Here we go
Should
then.
now be about the U.S.
U.S. and Great Britain. Major issue, challenge, or opportunity.
It's a work in progress, isn't it? 8 of Pentacles. Well, I think maybe this is positive. I'm feeling a positive vibe until I see the other cards, and I may change my mind. But right now I'm thinking that maybe we will find a way to work together with Great Britain and stop some of the shenanigans that are going on. Maybe cooler heads will prevail and some work will get done. Some agreements will be reached. Maybe it won't be that bad.
A lot of times the Eight of Pentacles sort of talks about, the idea of people who really can work well together. It's not specifically teamwork, but it doesn't disinclude it. Yeah. So I think that's really all of those. The issue, the challenge, the opportunity is where are the ways we can work together and how can we build better?
Okay.
Card 2, factors at play, positive or negative.
Well, it's the Knight of Swords now. We haven't had the Knight of Swords. See more court cards. Knight of Swords is reversed. So the factors, positive or negative, may be, I think the negative might be not well thought out, aggressive actions being taken by one side or the other. Maybe a tit for tat thing going on too. If one does one thing, the other one responds in a negative way. So I think we have to watch these spontaneous actions and reactions. Okay, things need what needs to be done positively here is that we think things through before we do them, and we try to dialogue and listen to one another before we do them.
A lot of times that night we'll talk about reckless behaviors, about somebody that maybe doesn't think things through. So this could be indicating that there are those possibilities that somebody may decide something means something else and decide they have to do something and they didn't think it through. And to some degree, there's also a hint too that sometimes the actions can be a little bit cowardly sometimes when the night is reversed. Just going to throw that there.
So where will things be by the end of 2025? Try to see it my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can't go on? We can work it out. We can work it out. That's the 3 of Cups again.
We're going to become their colony again, and everything will be better.
We're going to buy Great Britain. No,
they're going to recolonize us.
This means we're going to harmonize. Yes, we're going to have some bumps, and we're going to have to act and react and go through, work it out, and then ultimately by the end of 2025, it looks like conditions, and relations will improve.
It's very much the idea of people being happy together and maybe finding a way to celebrate that, whether it's a big celebration or whether it's just something that really happens. A lot of times there's a sense of maybe family or really close relations, and a lot of people think that, the U.S. and Britain, from the very beginning, there's a strong, warm connection there.
Wow. So should I sing So Happy Together? Okay. So that's it. I think it looks harmonious, let's just say. It's going to have its bumps. It's not going to be an easy ride, but hey, are we expecting an easy ride in this country? Probably not. So what else do we got here?
That's it. That was the last one.
Oh.
We're doing those in a separate show, right?
We're done.
Yeah. So, right, and we're over an hour here, so we should let this one go. I got some editing to do, obviously.
We will be back for part 3, which will actually be the world predictions, the general world predictions. Hope you have enjoyed this and got something out of it. Yeah. I think some of these readings were really telling.
Leave us some feedback.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
All right.
Okay, everybody, take care, and we'll see you soon.
Watch for the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.